Joining us to discuss this evolving topic, we are first joined by Yossi Kupawasi, who is a former head of research at the IF Defence Intelligence, who's joining us from Israel. Yossi, thank you very much for being here. I want to speak first now that we know that all 6 hostages have been handed back to the Red Cross and all of them will be back with IDF forces or in Israel imminently. There have been scenes of jubilation throughout Israel. What is the feeling today on the ground?
And the satisfaction that we managed to release 6 more hostages from Hamas captivity, especially after we've been through this agony of receiving the bodies of the Bibas family and of the Lifshitz 2 days earlier. So it's a feeling of joy and to see all these people coming out and they're alive. That's we will still have to check how is their situation, but they are alive, and that's the most important thing. That for us, we still have more than 20 alive people in captivity by Hamas, and we hope to see them all coming back to Israel as soon as possible.
Yes, I want to pick up on the situation with Shiri Bibas. Of course, the body and the body was returned, and we know that is now Shiri Bibas. Is there frustration and is there anger, Yossi, staying with you, because the body wasn't returned? Do you think this was a game by Hamas to not return the right body? They clearly had it, as it has now been returned to the family. So is there anger there in Israel? And also, what do you think that reaction might be to the situation?
Of course, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of anger of the entire issue, and especially because of what happened with Shiri Bibas. Because clearly they could have done better. They could have sent the body, the right body in the first place. We didn't need to go through this torture, and this was totally unnecessary. And we come back to the conclusion that we have a very big problem with the people we are living next to, and we cannot afford living next to Hamas and the people that support it for a long period of time. It's their behavior is unacceptable. And I think you heard it not only from the Israeli public, but everybody around the globe, and including the President of the United States, were expressing the same feeling about what happened on Thursday. And the fact is that they did have the body. That within 1 day, they were able to bring back the real body, which makes the frustration even bigger.
Yes, also joining us to discuss this topic is Ali M. Abushbak, who is an independent Palestinian researcher who's joining us from Cairo. Ali, thank you very much for your time. Hamas have signalled that they are ready to continue and move towards negotiations for phase 2 of the ceasefire. Can you give me a bit of an update on the feeling amongst Palestinians, knowing there is some hope when we've spoken recently, and obviously with the breakdown of trust and communications, there were fears that this ceasefire deal was going to fall apart. So what's the feeling for Palestinians waking up today, seeing that there has been progress in these hostage and prisoner exchanges?
Well, thank you for having me. In fact, what happened yesterday, the people got disappointed about intentionally mistake that Hamas did it during the exchange of the Shiri dead bodies, got mixed with the Palestinian women bodies. So today, after that, I tried to contact some people unsuccessfully. I got it. There is no optimist about what will happen. About most of the people who I could call them, who I could successfully access to talk to them, they are showing they're pessimistic about the situation. Especially they are thinking that Israel will resume the war, and the Israelis government statement on for the media and on the ground that shares it seems that they are serious about going back to the war. Despite that, this is 22 captive that Israel have been received since or exchanged since the ceasefire deal on 19th of January, and Hamas announced that next week there is also 6 Israeli captives they will get released. This phase, the first phase, it will going be over in the beginning of March, and we are hopefully that the second phases it will be success, and they will move through the second phases of the negotiation between Hamas and Israel, that which Qatar and Egypt and USA mediated. But unfortunately, there is no written, and Israel insists to be no written guarantee for ceasefire or for stop the war in Gaza. But as a Palestinian, we just only hope, and the people on the ground just what they concern about rebuilding their home, and rest of that they doesn't care about. I mean, they don't care about what will happen. Just only they care about restructuring their home. They want to save their dignity, living in home, finding a shelter for them. I guess this is.
Yes, I will come to you with a similar question relating to this, Ali, but first I want to go to Yossi. We know over 600 prisoners are to be released who are being held by Israel. There are fears, obviously, about who these people are. We know that 50 were serving life sentences. We know that 60 were serving longer sentences as well. Is there a fear, Yossi, that this is potentially strengthening Hamas and releasing dangerous individuals who could look to continue some action against Israel in the future?
Definitely. There's a big concern about it. We are talking about people that carried out very big terror attacks that cost the lives of many Israelis. And of course, we are concerned that this is going to strengthen Hamas and encourage and inspire people to carry out more terror attacks like the 7th of October. We are worried about that a lot. That said, if we could have get our hostages back without paying a price, it would have been much better. But the fact is that we have to pay this price, and the Israeli solidarity is such that we are ready to pay heavy prices that may cost us a lot of lives in the future in order to save lives that we can do today. That's the calculus we make. Whether it's going to be too dangerous or not, we shall never know. We shall see in the future. But of course, we shall have to take more precautions and steps in order to mitigate the threat that is growing. We saw already on Thursday night the attempt to plant bombs in many buses in the center of Israel, which tells us what we have to expect if we allow terrorism and Hamas gain more strength within the Palestinian society. That's a big problem, but what can we do?
Yes, Ali, I'd like to look at this on a slightly different perspective. Of course, we know that not everyone living in Gaza, not all Palestinians are affiliated with Hamas or a part of the group. Is there positivity in Palestine knowing that these people will be freed? And of course, not all of them are going to be affiliated with Hamas. And is there that growing optimism? I know you said that there is some pessimism, but is moments like this for the Palestinian people at least a light at the end of the tunnel rather than a big positive step?
In fact, the things is very complicated on the ground in Gaza, and as well as I said, now the supporter of Hamas, it's going to be less than before. I mean, the people who support Hamas, they are become back, and this than the population who got suffered and who got sacrificed during the war. But they don't have other option, Palestinian on the ground and in Gaza. They don't have other option. They are just only people who putting in such kind of situation. They are just only hoping, and hope is nothing. And as you know that after 10 days there is a holy month for Muslim people. Ramadan is coming. Just because for this sake, Palestinian, maybe they hope that they will reach to some solution and for some stop the war and going back to the normal life that we have been before.
Yes, very quickly, Yossi, before we move on, what does Israel want in order to progress to the second stage of the ceasefire deal? What does it need?
We need to make sure that Hamas is not going to stay in power in Gaza. That's what we need. And reading what Ali was saying, I understand this is what the Palestinians in Gaza also want to see happening. So it's we have to join forces with everybody who's interested in peaceful relationship between Israel and the people of Palestinian people in Gaza. And that needs to be based on the readiness of Hamas to relinquish power in Gaza. So far, this is not the case. They insist on either staying in power fully or on some arrangement that will keep them in power without being responsible for the civilian life, but only for the military and terrorism from Gaza. That's something that is unacceptable from an Israeli point of view. Shouldn't be acceptable is not acceptable by the Americans, shouldn't be acceptable for the Arabs living around us, and shouldn't be acceptable for the Palestinians living in Gaza as well. But for the time being, we are carrying the burden of making it happen, and that's what we need for the situation in the day after the second stage that is we have to discuss right now. And of course, what Hamas insists on is to make sure that they stay in power. It's a part of the conditions they put forward for stage B. We'll see how this is going to develop. We are approaching a fork on the road because in 1 week, the rest of the bodies that are supposed to be released according to stage A are going to be released next Saturday. And then there is no binding agreement. It's an open situation. And if Hamas insists on staying in power, then we are going to see the end of this arrangement.
Yossi and Ali, thank you very much for joining us.